You know the musical Little Shop of Horrors? Seymour adopts a plant, he names it Audrey, and it proceeds to grow up and eat people. The famous line is, "Feed me, Seymour." Now, my yard is full of Audreys that are threatening life and limb. Sometimes it's tree limb. Now, I will introduce you to my Audreys. When I went to water my window box this morning, my husband had been watering it, and so I hadn't taken care of it in a few days. But the window wouldn't open. I was like, what's wrong with this window? And then I realized it's being eaten. I don't know if you can see that or not. There you go. The ivy was obstructing the window. And I love the ivy on the house, but you reach a point where it's just like it's eating the house. This first Audrey is the ivy. Coming from a desert region of the country, I thought all that ivy was just terrific. So charming, growing on the stone exterior and up the side of a tree. That is, until it isn't. Now it's becoming terrifying, our very own little shop of horrors, as it threatens to eat everything in its path. My first battle with the ivy started with removing ivy from the trees shortly after we bought the house. A dogwood, the horse chestnut, 150-year-old oak, and on and on. If neglected, ivy can kill a tree. The solution is not as bad as you would think. I just remove the ivy all the way around the tree, creating a clear band about 3 or 4 feet high. As you can see on these trees, the ivy will die and allow the tree to recover. The tree will look tidier if the dead vines are removed, but even left in the tree will recover. My philosophy is to only remove ivy when there's no danger of me falling. Then we began to have ivy attacking the house. The most surprising incident occurred a few years ago. It's funny and a little alarming. I saw what looked like a moth on the wall above the bay window in the family room. I really wish I'd taken a picture. When that little moth was still there the next day, I thought that was strange, so I went over to check it out. Instead of a moth, I found a small ivy leaf growing right where the trim and the drywall meet. It was coming through the wall. After removing the leaf, in disbelief, I went outside to investigate and found ivy growing between the foundation and the siding. I pulled a 6-foot-long vine from inside the space behind the siding and quickly began pulling out all the vines approaching the house. Since then, I've made a point of cutting any ivy that grows above about 6 inches where we have siding. I do allow the ivy to grow on the stone since I know those walls are solid cinder block with a 3-inch thick stone facade. We do make a point of keeping the ivy away from the roof, windows, and shutters, or at least we're supposed to. The ivy in the flower beds is an ongoing problem, one that will never be completely solved, I'm afraid. But I do plan on pulling out this bed completely and starting over without the ivy. Maybe this fall, you just don't know. We also have several Audrey plants that are challenging. The Rose of Sharon, redbud, mulberry, and oak trees. I find little seedlings all over the yard. And then there are vines like trumpet vine and Virginia creeper that are huge bullies in our garden. Whenever possible, I pull them out by the root, but often all I can do is cut them back to the ground and hope for the best. And don't even get me started on kudzu. Fortunately, It has not really taken hold in my yard. It just tries to invade from the neighbors' yards. I hate that stuff. One of my neighbors 3 doors down has bamboo. At least we don't have that problem. Then there are the plants that grow like crazy. The one that's really bothering me now is this spirea. This was actually my mistake. The tag said it would grow to be about 3 feet tall and 3 feet wide. In reality, it grows about 3 feet taller and 3 feet wider each year. A company called Saker that approached me and offered me a little handheld cordless hedge trimmer and grass shear. And we have a big one, but I always have to get my husband involved with that. And I thought, it's a production. And this one's small enough that I thought, this could be really handy just to pick it up and take care of things real quickly. So I had him send me one out, and it comes with the base, and here's the chargeable battery that slips in quite neatly. And this one's the little grass shear that slips in, and there's a little safety, and that's the grass shear. And then here is the that little hedge trimmer. Okay, you have to get it just right. I'm a little clumsy here. There we go. Not that big a deal. And there is the hedge trimmer. I can hardly wait to go out and attack my plants, get them back under control. It looks so much tidier now after trimming the spirea, pulling out lots of ivy and raking up dead leaves. I can hardly wait to dig it out and take it to my son's house. He's a good plant daddy and will take good care of it. This little hedge trimmer is so light and easy to use since there is no cord or long saw or big battery. I love to keep my yew bushes trimmed. The secret to yew is to trim them narrower on the top and wider at the bottom. That way the sun reaches the bottom branches and keeps them nice and green. One of my favorite tips. Now, this is a picture of the house when we bought it 8 years ago. What you see growing tall in front of the windows are those same 2 yew bushes. It took a few years for them to fill out, giving them the shape I wanted. The thing I've learned about gardening and housekeeping is there's always something that needs to be done, and it will just need to be redone next week. Now, when all my kids were little and the house was always a disaster, I was constantly reading articles about how to keep your house clean. I don't know why I thought reading would help my house be clean, but I did. Anyway, there were a couple of suggestions that I continue to use in the house and have implemented in the garden. First, set a manageable time each day to work on each space, like 5 minutes in each space. The goal is just to maintain the chaos, make sure it stays under control. The beds are made, the dishes are done, the laundry is off the floor. The floor is actually safe to walk on. In the case of the garden, the plants are watered, garbage in the yard or large objects like tree branches are removed. That way, nothing gets completely out of control. Now, the second part is set aside time each day in the house to thoroughly clean one room. In a bedroom, you change the sheets, dust thoroughly, vacuum thoroughly, clean the windows, organize shelves and closets.
The next day, you work on a different room. Now, my house is small enough that I can hit each room once a week. Some rooms don't take much time at all. Others take more time. In the garden, I can't be sure I will be able to spend a long period in the garden each day. If I'm lucky and disciplined, I might get 2 or 3 days where I can spend some extended time in the garden. Depending on how much time I have, I select one flower bed or area to give a good sprucing up. Now, with the garden, it usually takes a month or more to make it through the whole yard. And then big projects inside the house or out should be planned in advance and managed with reasonable expectations. You forget that houses and gardens that are on the local home or garden tour, their owners spend all year getting ready for a few hours of perfection. The same thing goes for photo shoots and video tours, except they only show you the areas that are perfect. Outside of camera range, bedlam often rules. I know that means my house and garden are never fully perfect all at the same time. But, that works for me. The thought of making everything perfect is so overwhelming, and in the case of housekeeping, so unpleasant, that I would find myself completely avoiding even getting started. When I give myself permission to quit when a small task is completed, I find myself more likely to actually get something done. And I know I'll be working on that other room or spot in the garden on another day.
As I was just finishing this video, I was proofing it, and I heard a great thump, and I saw leaves flying around. And lo and behold, a huge branch fell out of one of our oak trees. And, there's a mess happening there. I don't think anything else is broken, but made a huge, loud noise. And since we were talking about picking up large branches, this is what I'm talking about when I say you start by just picking up the branches. But I thought you might want to see this, but this just barely started to rain.
Each spot will have its moment to shine, so be kind to yourself. Avoid toxic perfectionism. And at the end of the movie, or the end of the day, an evil little plant will be lurking in a corner, ready to take over my yard. But, I can choose to be happy and battle it on another day. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.